Hello, welcome to InSight. I'm Wendy Brokaw. Oregon Humane Society is the largest animal welfare organization in the Pacific Northwest. Last year, it merged with the Willamette Humane Society in Salem, which now gives it two campuses, one in Portland and one in Salem. And it has a new community veterinary clinic and some very exciting news about radiology services. You are celebrating your one-year anniversary with this merger. What are the highlights of this first year, and what's in store? My guests today are B.J. Andersen, the former executive director of the Willamette Humane Society and now director of volunteer services for OHS Portland and Salem campuses, and Laura Klink, OHS Public Information Officer. Before we begin, Laura, could you please give us an update on the hundreds of cats and kittens rescued from the tragic Maui Fires and were sent to the OHS Portland campus? How many are there, and goodness, how are they doing?
So there were about 92 cats and kittens that arrived at our Portland campus on Friday evening. And this was a great collaborative effort with Greater Good Charities and Southwest Airlines and Maui Humane Society. And one thing that's really important to note in disaster response is one of the most important things that we can do in animal welfare is to clear out local shelters to free up space and resources. So those local shelters can really help with lost, injured pets and reuniting people with their pets. So the animals that were transferred to Oregon Humane Society were animals that were in shelters looking for homes before the wildfires. Again, it was such a great collaborative effort. We are very fortunate on our Portland campus to have a new rescue center that was purpose-built for these large intakes, especially during disasters. Again, we had a huge group of volunteers come out to help on Friday evening. They worked late into the night to help these cats and kittens get settled. I'm so excited about just the response from the community, and everyone has been, raising their hand to see how can I help? How can I help Maui? How can I help some of these animals? A lot of these animals that came from Maui have already found homes. And the really awesome kind of ripple effect of this is a lot of local animals found homes too, because we put the call out to help us clear out space. If you adopt an Oregon cat or kitten, you are helping a pet from Maui.
Oh my, yes. Thank you. BJ, when did this idea of merging with the Oregon Humane Society come about?
Well, honestly, the idea first came to me in 2017 when I was at a national conference for animal welfare leadership, and there was a presentation given about the emerging best practice in animal welfare of mergers, and how the way the animal welfare field developed was lots of individual humane societies, shelters, ASPCAs, all around. Every community was running their own and staffing their own and funding their own. And just because of the way the field grew in America, and how much we can do, how much more we can do in terms of mission delivery when we merge and we don't have to fund every level of the structure in every community. So I heard that, and it was the most brilliant, sensible presentation I'd ever heard. And I realized as a relatively new executive director at the time that I was probably looking at my job being one of the redundancies that gets eliminated. At the same time, I knew it was the right idea for the future of Willamette Humane Society. So I just kind of put that on the shelf and kept doing what I did and leading the organization. And then in about 2019, our board of directors and I started looking at the long-term sustainability for Willamette Humane Society. We were a healthy organization with a healthy reserve. We were funding ourselves, but the long-term sustainability of that model it wasn't long-term sustainable. And neither the board nor I was willing to cut services substantially to balance that budget over the long term. And so we started looking at options, and it was at that point that I really broached the idea, maybe late 2018, early 2019, with the board of directors of like, hey, we might want to look at a merger.
It has been 1 year since the merger. How's it going?
it's a bumpy process. And when we started this merger, we told our staff in both campuses, this is an 18 to 24 month process. So we're a year into it. We're still in process. We're still combining databases and IT systems, and we're still shifting those things around. And we're really learning as we go. Like, when we align processes across campuses, it doesn't mean they're exactly the same, because the structure of the Salem campus may be different than the structure of the Oregon campus, but we are aiming to the same goal. And like I said, the challenging process is changing those databases and systems, and trying not to overwhelm everyone with all the change all at once.
Laura, what do you have to say about the merger?
The adoptions have been really exciting. One of the things that I've been really excited about with this merger is again, that sharing of resources. In Portland, we opened the Behavior and Rescue Center about a year ago. And to see how that's really benefited animals from Salem has been just been really terrific. One of the very first cases in the Behavior and Rescue Center was a case that Salem police brought to us. It was a case of about a dozen cats that were abandoned in an apartment. They'd been suffering from some neglect, and as such were very fearful. They really struggled to trust people. And, they were originally at the Salem campus, and, through the staff's evaluation down there, they really recognized that these cats needed a higher level of behavior expertise. So they moved up to the Behavior and Rescue Center, got a lot of one-on-one specialized care, and they have all found homes. So that trading back and forth, that knowledge sharing, and those additional resources to really make a difference for the animal, to me, has been the most impactful, and really why we've done this merger.
BJ, I've known you for many years, and you have always told me that without volunteers, we really wouldn't even be able to operate. And volunteers themselves felt from you that you were really understood just how valuable volunteers are. What is your experience now telling you about volunteering, since you're in charge of both campuses and volunteer services?
Yeah. Well, honestly, Wendy, the reason I stayed at Oregon Humane Society after the merger was because the Oregon Humane Society had actually brought the volunteer program into the People and Culture Department, which is traditionally, like a lot of us would think of that as like, that's HR, that's staff. To me, the organization's commitment to seeing that volunteers and staff are the same and that we want to be able to give volunteers and staff the same kind of resources and training and opportunity for development. That culture of treating volunteers and staff as two wings of the same bird, like that's when this position opened up, and I was like, that's the right fit for me. I was a volunteer manager before I was an executive director. I'm back with the volunteers again. Really thrilled, and really thrilled to see again, we say this all the time, the resources that Oregon Humane Society is able to offer to the volunteers in both campuses. And for me as an executive director, the idea that Oregon Humane Society was able to move our team to a living wage in Salem was it. I mean, I was verklempt every time I thought of it. That's the biggest budget item for any nonprofit. Your staffing costs are going to always be 75, 80, 85% of your annual budget. And because to do the great mission work, to take care of all those animals, we need great people, and we need to be able to attract great people and retain them. And we have people who are moving to Salem now to work for Oregon Humane Society at the Salem campus because we can pay them. So that just makes my heart so happy.
Tell me, what services are being offered at the Salem campuses briefly? Can someone tell me?
I mentioned the adoptions program. So again, the shelter is now open 7 days a week for a walkthrough from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. So adoptions, which a lot of people, when they think of an animal shelter, think of adoptions first. Our medical center, our spay-neuter clinic, we've seen a huge demand from the public for owned pets. So we have a number of 2 days a week that are allocated to do spay-neuter for owned pets in the community. Right now, we're focusing on cats because there is, as we all know, kind of an overpopulation challenge with cats. So really helping cat owners get their cats spayed or neutered is really critical. One thing that's really exciting on the horizon for the medical center in Salem is the addition of a digital radiology suite to provide more comprehensive care for the shelter pets.
That is an extraordinary development, because that means that people won't have to travel to be able to get those same radiology tests.
This has been a limitation for us in being able to serve the pets. We have this beautiful spay-neuter clinic, but we also were taking care of the animals that were coming into Willamette Humane Society when we needed them to have an X-ray or a more advanced surgery procedure that requires X-ray support. We would have to send those pets out to vet partners in the community, and through the pandemic years, it was as difficult for us to get an appointment for our pets as it was for the public to get in to see a veterinarian. So we knew that we needed radiology on site, and we didn't have again, here I come back to it, we didn't have the resources to be able to do that. We had donors who were waiting to step up to help us with this project, and we are, I'm so grateful for their support, but it wasn't going to be enough to get the whole project done. We just didn't have the expertise, the knowledge, everything. When you go to remodel a medical clinic, it's not just knocking out a wall, it's lead-lined walls, and it's special equipment, and it's architects and designers, and the experience to do a complex project like this. Oregon Humane Society had just built a whole community vet hospital. So they were the perfect partner to come in and help us realize this dream that we had of really adding the essential services that our veterinarians need on site in Salem.
When are you going to be able to offer those radiology services?
Back to you, Laura.
Now? What?
I said back to you, Laura.
Yeah, so middle of next year. I know Dr. Livesay, our lead veterinarian in Salem, would love it to be there tomorrow. So, but as BJ said, it's a complex construction project, and luckily we've got some great talent and resources in our back pocket from having just built the new Road Ahead expansion project in the hospital.
And you just mentioned the new Road Ahead. The American Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Animals awarded OHA in 2021 its highest honor, the Henry Berg Award, and almost $2 million for your new Road Ahead campaign. What is that?
So the new Road Ahead expansion project is, it was a project that really started percolating about 10 years ago. And the project itself is 2 buildings on our Portland campus. One building houses a community veterinary hospital, and that is for the public, for owned pets. And the community veterinary hospital provides subsidized care for pet owners who may not otherwise be able to afford to take their pet to the vet. In addition to, it's open to all pet owners, but really the mission focus is on providing that subsidized care. That building also houses an animal crimes forensic center. OHS has a humane law enforcement division that's kind of, a deep part of our history. Our humane law enforcement officers work all over the state. We assist and advise and lead cases all over the state. But having that forensic evidence and that veterinarian report is so critical to securing convictions, and working with district attorneys on having that forensic report is just really, again, key in those cases. So the new building houses a forensic center, so our team can do that specialized work. The second building that's part of that expansion project is the Animal Behavior and Rescue Center. I talked about that a little bit before with the Maui pets coming in and some of the animals that have received specialized specialized behavior care. The ASPCA actually has a facility in North Carolina that is a behavior rehabilitation center. So they have really been the leaders in this work to work with animals that maybe have no other options, that are, from puppy mills, from neglect cases, have severe fear. And so our team our behavior team has been in contact with them for many years. And so when the idea of building a behavior and rescue center came about, they traveled to North Carolina to see their setup, to meet with their experts, because everything in that building, especially in the behavior part of the building, was really purpose built for healing. So the natural light, the quiet spaces, the enrichment opportunities. So that grant from the ASPCA was really critical, because this was a $39 million project, this expansion. So we opened up all those services late last year. So it's again, we've seen a huge need in services from the hospital. We've been using the Behavior and Rescue Center. So it's great to now see those buildings put to use.
Thank you, Laura.
And Wendy, this is another example to perfectly illustrate when I say that Oregon Humane Society creates and leads best practices. One of the reasons the ASPCA was so interested in helping to fund this project is that they want a model of what individual humane societies can do and build and create on their campuses to support these behaviorally challenged animals, particularly the behaviorally challenged dogs, as we see a larger and larger proportion of our intake being dogs who haven't had the socialization they need, who haven't developed the life skills that they need to be good companion pets, or who have, fear or anxiety or, whatever it may be. The ASPCA wants to see a model that they can suggest to other shelters. Here's how you can help behavioral modification on your site with your resources. And so we're the model for that. And that's just another thing that makes me so proud to be part of Oregon Humane Society.
When you were the executive director, you watched people with dogs. You watched how your volunteers handled them. What makes you think that this approach that is being worked on now with animal behavior training will do that is different from what's been done in the past?
Oh, yeah. The challenge is exactly what Laura said about being a purpose-built facility. So when you have a dog that's got anxiety, is sound sensitive, is reactive to other dogs, and they're in an old, the Willamette Humane Society, the Salem campus is a 30-year-old building. It was designed well at the time, but it's loud. There's not an ability to give a dog a larger space if they're going to be staying longer. It was built for dogs who weren't going to stay longer for sad reasons at the time. Animals did not stay in shelters very long in 1995. Now they may stay with us for a year and a half. Well, they should have, if they're going to stay with us, not only foster homes, but when they're in the shelter with behavioral modification teams that are highly trained, certified in their work, as ours are, they need more space, they need more quiet, and just the way that the facility is designed for those, particularly dogs exiting and entering their kennels, that they're not in visual line of sight with other dogs. They're not hearing other dogs yelling at them as they go by. It's like, a scene out of Shawshank Redemption or something when you're walking down the cell line and everybody's yelling at you. It's hard to take. That's a very stressful environment for a dog, and they're challenged by it. So in this setting, they can have a calmer setting. They can focus on healing and learning, and we can show them also to the public in ways that show them what the dog's going to be like in their home. Shelter behavior is not what the behavior is in the home most of the time.
BJ, Oregon Humane Society has a very high save rate and no real time limit on sheltering.
Yeah, the Willamette Humane Society did also. That was one of the primary goals that I had as an incoming executive director, was particularly to focus on our cats and to to be able to not have that time limit, to be able to rehabilitate ringworm cats and cats who are, had colds and who needed surgeries and who needed time, and who needed to grow old enough to be able to be spayed or neutered and adopted.
What is Oregon Humane Society's success rate for finding homes for their shelter animals?
We have a 98% save rate, I believe, for cats and dogs right now. I think
98%?
yes.
Yep.
And as BJ said, the decisions, are taken very seriously and very seldom when an animal gets to that point. And I love how BJ described that it is something that you as a pet owner would probably, be making the same decision and having that same, discussion in your head about quality of life and things like that. So, one of the things that, again, cross campus we're looking at too is how do we help even more animals find homes? So by having the walkthrough adoptions in Salem, by having the behavior rescue center, I'm glad BJ mentioned, a lot of the dogs that we're seeing right now at our behavior center are these young, exuberant dogs that just have never learned self-control. They haven't been socialized. And so it's been interesting to watch our trainers, kind of almost like see this shift in who they're caring for. And instead of teaching dogs to trust, they're teaching dogs to calm down and to do nothing. And so, I love the way that they'll describe, like, sometimes, your win is teaching this dog to self-soothe, to, learning the skills and the life skills to be able to manage their own anxiety in a way, to have that special bed that they go to when they can't cope, or to have that special toy that they grab with their mouth when they're like, just not quite sure what to do with themselves. So, our behavior team in Portland and in Salem has a really wide range of skills. And it's been interesting to see that shift in which dogs need help.
I'd like to stop here for a moment and show a movie to everyone that you gave me about one such dog. His name, Rocky.
One of the things I wanted to do when I came here was to spend more time with my favorite breed, which is the pit bull. The first time I met Rocky was when I came in here, probably for a dog walking shift, and I usually just walk through the kennels and see who the new dogs are. And there was this most adorable black pit bull mix sitting in his kennel, and he was probably the shyest, most fearful dog I have ever seen. It just tugged at my heart. He became very close to us. He would see us and recognize us and be very happy. And he actually got comfortable with the people who strictly came in once a week to walk him. He just got comfortable after a while.
We were looking at dogs from California to Texas to Oregon.
Everywhere.
And then we saw Rocky's profile and knew we were going to be coming back the next day from our camping trip, and decided to go take a look. And then he ran over to us and rolled over on his back, put his paws in the air and started licking us and let us rub his belly. So we knew at that moment that he was our dog.
Yeah, it was magical. We took him everywhere with us, so he did come out of his shell fairly quickly. He went to work, to softball games, anywhere we went, kayaking.
Which he hated.
Did not like water. Rocky didn't like the sand. He figured out fairly quickly, put one foot in and held it up for a while because, it was gross. Then he saw a corgi running off leash, so we took him off his leash and they played in the sand. Then he was fine. All of a sudden, he started sprinting towards the water. He hates water. I had no idea what was happening, so I start running towards him. And out of my peripheral vision, I saw two women running too and yelling. I didn't know what was going on. Rocky got to the water and put his head in and pulled out a little human. And he just kept pulling her and pulling her. He ripped a hole in her shirt, just pulling so hard. And he got her up to the sand and just started licking her. And she was coughing and laughing. And he just rolled over next to her and let the two parents catch up and let them scratch his belly. I didn't see a child there, so when he ran, the baby was already underneath the wave. I didn't see anything until he pulled her out of the water. And that's when I knew that he only ran there to get her.
It's nice to know that he's got that instinct.
And the will.
Yeah, the will.
Yeah.
I fell in love with him day one.
And it's just like another point on his cool chart, you know? Like,
Yeah.
he's just amazing.
It was just like a layer that we didn't know existed. And,
yeah.
You know.
We're just peeling back these layers and every one of them are good.
You read those stories, you go on social media and you read about a dog that saved somebody. Like, I'll never meet a dog like that. I actually did.
That's pretty moving. Rocky and his new family.
It's an amazing story. And I think one of the things I just love about that story is this idea of resilience and just these hidden treasures that some of our animals have. And, you know, we talked a lot about the value of the volunteers and what they bring to the table. I mean, Marianne is just such a rock star volunteer, and to see how they were able to help Rocky in that first part of his journey start to learn and to trust and bond. Their work really set him up for success. And obviously he went on to do some great things. And it's a really great story.
BJ. What are your thoughts?
Oh, yeah, I tear up every time I watch that. And I absolutely echo the word that Laura used, resilience. I am always humbled by the resilience of our shelter pets and where they come from. I just read a happy tale this week that our volunteers share with each other. A cat that came through the Behavior Modification Center and got adopted, and the adopter sent us an update. And she said for the first week, I think it was, the cat spent 99% of her time hiding from them. And then she started to come out. And now 2 weeks later, she sent these beautiful pictures of the cat on her lap and in the living room and sitting in the window watching a bird feeder and, you know, cuddling with her. And the cat looks so relaxed and so perfectly at home. And that resilience, whether it's a fearful animal or a shut down animal or an overstimulated, stressed out animal, coming back and then just turning to humans with love, and in Rocky's case, epic heroism. It humbles me.
I want to leave viewers with a way to get in touch with you, but before I do, please, congratulations on your merger, and the road ahead for you looks bright. BJ and Laura, thank you for being my guests today on InSight. How do we get in touch with Oregon Humane Society, both campuses?
Sure, I can do that. OregonHumane.org is a great place to start. I would encourage folks to look into volunteer opportunities, whether it's on campus or as a foster parent.
And I would encourage everybody in the Mid-Valley to come visit the shelter. If you haven't been to the shelter since you adopted your dog 10 years ago, or you came in to see kitties when you were at Camp Paw, come visit the shelter. Come check it out. It's just beautiful.
Well, thank you for being my guest today on InSight. I'm Wendy Brokaw.